What if everything you've been taught about success is actually pushing it away? We've been conditioned to chase relentlessly. But what if the act of chasing is the very thing blocking what we seek? Peace, joy, fulfillment. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you'll discover a powerful shift in perspective, one that can unlock the flow of life itself. What you're about to hear might change how you experience everything. Have you ever noticed that the harder you push for something, the more it slips out of reach? It's not just in your head, it's a pattern built into the fabric of how we experience life. From an early age, we're taught that effort equals outcome, that hustle, pressure, and constant grinding are the only paths to fulfillment. But what if that formula is upside down? Imagine chasing happiness, love, or inner peace like a finish line. The faster you run, the further it stretches. The more you crave control, the more chaos you invite. The desire to make it happen becomes the very weight pulling you under. This isn't just frustrating, it's exhausting. That feeling of never arriving, never being enough. It stems from trying to manipulate life into submission. And yet, the real magic seems to happen not when we tighten our grip, but when we let go entirely. There's a hidden principle, subtle, ancient, yet quietly revolutionary. It says the moment you stop forcing outcomes, the very things you were chasing begin to find their way to you. This isn't about apathy or inaction, it's about surrendering the obsessive need to control every detail. True satisfaction doesn't live in effort alone. It breathes in the space we create when we stop resisting what is. Think about it. When was the last time something truly beautiful happened because you strained for it? Most likely it arrived quietly, without warning, in a moment of stillness. Maybe the real problem isn't that we aren't trying hard enough, but that we're trying so hard we're blind to what's already unfolding. What if life doesn't need to be conquered? What if it only needs to be allowed? Close your eyes for a moment and picture holding water in your hand. If you squeeze your fingers tightly, the liquid escapes through every gap. But when you open your palm and allow it to rest naturally, it stays. This is not just a metaphor, it's a truth that echoes through every part of existence. The more we cling, the more we lose. The more we release, the more we receive. We often approach happiness, peace, or success as if they are prey to be hunted. We chase, we grasp, we fight to lock them into our lives. But in doing so, we unknowingly set up a resistance that repels exactly what we crave. It's a paradox that feels counterintuitive until we experience it firsthand. The need to possess becomes the very energy that drives things away. Think of moments when you've tried desperately to hold on to someone, or to prove your worth, or to achieve a dream with unrelenting force. Didn't it often lead to burnout, frustration, and emptiness? That's not failure, it's feedback. The universe speaks softly through results, not noise. And when our actions come from fear or desperation, what returns is more struggle. But the moment we pause, breathe, and trust the rhythm of things, something shifts. It's as if the pressure valve releases, and life begins to cooperate instead of resist. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means choosing trust over control. It means realizing that flow is more powerful than force. That softness doesn't equal weakness. It's the doorway to clarity. Ancient teachings knew this well. In their wisdom, they spoke of a way of being where action arises without tension and progress comes without pressure. They called it effortless action, not laziness but alignment. A way of showing up without fear dictating the script. And when we live from this space, we stop chasing outcomes and start attracting presence. Because sometimes the only thing standing between you and everything you want is the belief that you have to fight for it. Henry had spent years painting under pressure, brush in hand, ambition in heart, and disappointment in every corner. He showcased his work at galleries, flooded social media with promotions, chased every opportunity that looked like a gateway to recognition. Yet applause never came. Silence, not success, greeted his every effort. Eventually, the exhaustion outweighed the dream. One evening, surrounded by half-finished canvases and unanswered messages, Henry decided to paint without a purpose. Not for buyers, not for likes, not even for validation, just for the quiet joy of expression. Something remarkable happened. The lines flowed easier, the colors spoke louder, and slowly the same art that once felt forced began to radiate authenticity. People noticed, not because he shouted, but because his silence had depth. His creations, born from a place of surrender, began to resonate with those who stumbled upon them. Henry's transformation didn't come from doing more. It came from releasing the need to prove. When the obsession with results faded, space was made for the unexpected to enter. In stepping away from control, he unknowingly aligned with something larger, something magnetic. We're taught to pursue what we want with relentless energy. But the truth, wanting too much sends a message of lack, and lack attracts more emptiness. Just like Henry, when we stop pushing and simply create, live and move from a place of fullness, life meets us with gifts we never had to chase. Letting go isn't giving up. It's stepping aside so what's meant for you can actually find the door open. Life doesn't resist. Rivers don't argue with boulders. They simply slide around them, patient and persistent until paths appear. Yet, as humans, we tend to meet challenges with tension, fighting, fixing, controlling. And when things don't go our way, we tighten our grip even more. But here's the secret that most miss. The more you fight reality, the more it pushes back. What if we stopped trying to bend everything to our will and instead allowed life to show us its rhythm? That's not defeat, it's wisdom. Acceptance isn't about agreeing with everything. It's about releasing the emotional war we start the moment things don't match our expectations. The most peaceful moments in life don't come from perfection. They come from release. When we finally stop insisting that the moment must be different, we begin to see the beauty in what already is. That's where clarity lives, not in the noise of resistance, but in the silence of surrender. In ancient wisdom, there's a concept of natural alignment, of acting without strain. This isn't passivity. It's the choice to move with, not against, the current. It's living with intentional softness, where decisions arise from presence rather than panic. Modern psychology echoes this truth. When pressure takes over, performance collapses. The body stiffens. The mind spirals. But with trust, breath, and stillness, the system resets. We stop performing and start responding. That's where real transformation begins, not in force, but in flow. Next time you're tempted to fix everything, pause, ask yourself, can I let this be? In that space, answers often arrive uninvited, quiet, gentle, but undeniable. Because the power to change your life isn't in what you control, it's in what you're willing to release. We're often told that if we want something badly enough, we'll find a way. But have you noticed? The more we crave, the heavier it becomes. The deeper the desire, the greater the fear that we might not get it. That fear, quiet and constant, begins to shape every thought, every move, and it clouds everything. Wanting something isn't wrong. But when longing turns into obsession, the energy shifts. Instead of inviting what we love, we begin to radiate a sense of not having it. And the universe, ever responsive, mirrors that back. Some of the oldest spiritual paths understood this, long before modern minds caught up. In the Taoist tradition, they speak of action that carries no tension, not because there's no goal, but because the one moving has released the desperate need for control. In such stillness, things unfold naturally, with no resistance. The Bhagavad Gita teaches a similar principle. Arjuna, lost in doubt, is told not to abandon effort, but to surrender the result. not to give up, but to stop gripping the outcome so tightly that the present becomes unbearable. When we offer our actions without attachment, life responds with unexpected grace. Surrender isn't weakness. It's the quiet strength to trust something greater than your mind's plan. It's choosing faith over force. It's believing that your path will find its shape not through panic, but through presence. Even the poet Rumi hinted at this hidden rhythm. Let yourself be silently drawn by the pull of what you truly love. There's a guidance within. That doesn't shout. It pulls, gently but powerfully, when we stop running in every direction. The lesson is simple, though not easy. You can want something. You can move toward it. But if you cling, if you force, if you chase with fear, you push it away. And sometimes the greatest act of creation is the willingness to let life surprise you. Why does pressure often lead to collapse? Why do we freeze when it matters most? These aren't just emotional flukes. They're signs of a deeper imbalance in how we relate to effort and control. Modern psychology has long observed a strange contradiction. The more intensely we focus on succeeding, the more our performance tends to unravel. Think of a tightrope walker staring down in fear. The fear of falling becomes the cause of the fall. We live in a culture addicted to control. We plan every hour, obsess over outcomes, and panic when things drift from our blueprint. But this need to dictate every moment generates the very instability we try to avoid. Tension isn't a tool, it's a trap. Our minds, like any delicate instrument, don't operate well under strain. When the stakes feel too high, the nervous system shifts into survival mode. Breath shortens, thoughts race, and clarity vanishes. What once felt natural becomes forced. What once brought joy turns into performance. The remedy isn't more discipline, it's space. The space to feel without fixing. The space to act without obsessing. When we create room for things to unfold without rushing to interfere, we quiet the internal noise. And in that quiet, focus returns, steady and calm. It's like trying to swim against a river's current. The harder you kick, the more exhausted you become, and the further away you drift from where you want to go. But when you move with the flow, when you stop resisting and allow the water to carry you, everything becomes easier. That's not defeat. That's wisdom in motion. True mastery doesn't look like struggle. It looks like ease that comes from trust. Trust in the process, trust in timing, trust in yourself. Because peace isn't born from pressure. It grows where presence is allowed to lead. We've been taught to believe that peace is a destination, something we reach once the chaos quiets down, the bills are paid, and every loose end is tied. But peace isn't hiding behind a perfect life. It's waiting in the space we've forgotten. To look within, look closely and you'll notice external calm doesn't last. Even when everything appears stable, anxiety can still whisper beneath the surface. That's because true harmony isn't built on control. It's rooted in how we relate to the present, not how perfectly we manage it. Peace doesn't arrive when problems disappear. It emerges when we stop needing everything to be different. The greatest teachers, from Buddha to Christ, never promised that life would be free of hardship. Instead, they spoke of a way to meet life with openness, to witness the ups and downs without being consumed by them, to respond, not react. That's what real balance is. Not standing still, but being able to move without losing your center. We often resist what we feel. Stress shows up and we push it away. Pain appears and we numb it. But the more we reject our experience, the more it tightens its grip. What if, instead of escaping discomfort, we allowed ourselves to feel it, without judgment, without panic? Acceptance doesn't mean you enjoy every moment. It means you stop fighting what already is. And in that surrender, a strange freedom emerges. The weight of needing life to behave suddenly lifts, and what remains is clarity. Ancient philosophies called this state wu-wei, action without force. Not passivity, but natural responsiveness. A way of living where every movement flows from stillness, not struggle. Peace isn't found in achieving everything, it's found in not needing everything to be achieved. When your inner world settles, the outside follows. Not because it's been tamed, but because you're no longer held hostage by its storms. And perhaps the balance you've been searching for was never about controlling the waves, but learning to float above them. There's a belief many carry without even realizing it, that power comes from somewhere outside. A mentor, a method, a movement. That peace, success, or worth must be earned, validated, or bestowed by the world. But what if that belief is the very illusion keeping you stuck? You've been searching for strength in titles, tools, and teachings, forgetting that the fire you're chasing already burns within you. Real power doesn't scream, it doesn't demand attention. It whispers through your intuition. It moves through quiet courage. It's not found, it's remembered. The most transformative breakthroughs happen not when you become someone else, but when you finally return to who you are. Not the roles you play, not the image you protect, but the core of you, the part, untouched by doubt or noise. This is what ancient wisdom pointed to, a source inside that never fades. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna reminds Arjuna that when you act from alignment, not fear, you're unstoppable, not because you're controlling outcomes, but because you're guided by something deeper than logic. And science, in its own way, agrees. Your thoughts shape your experience. The patterns you feed become your life's rhythm. When you begin to observe your mind instead of obey it, something unlocks. Clarity sharpens, strength rises, and with it, the ability to choose a different. There's to think of any great creator, visionary or spiritual teacher. They didn't become powerful by collecting approval. They became powerful by trusting the light inside, even when no one else could see it. That light is not unique to them. It lives in you too. To access it, you don't need more lessons. You need presence. You need stillness. You need to stop. Outsourcing what was always yours. This inner force isn't limited to a moment of inspiration. It's your constant, your anchor, your quiet storm. And when you recognize that you're not separate from the life you seek, that you are the life, you begin to walk differently, speak differently, live fully. So the next time you doubt your path, remember, you are not chasing power. You are the one carrying it.